Ghislaine Maxwell, the convicted associate of sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, has denied that his highly discussed client list exists. The US Justice Department has released transcripts and audio recordings of its interview with her last month. She is serving a 20-year sentence for helping the late financier abuse young girls. During the interview, Ghislaine Maxwell was asked about President Trump, Bill Clinton and Prince Andrew. She told Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche that she never saw President Trump in any inappropriate setting and he was always cordial to her. She said that allegations about Prince Andrew were not true and that this famous photo was fake, and that former President Bill Clinton was never one of Epstein's so-called clients. Our North America correspondent David Willis has the details.
Convicted of helping Jeffrey Epstein recruit, groom and abuse underage girls, nobody knows more of his dark secrets than Ghislaine Maxwell. Of interest to many, the friendship he forged with Donald Trump in the late 1990s, a friendship she insists that was completely above board.
I don't recall ever seeing him in his house, for instance. I actually never saw the president in any type of massage setting. I never witnessed the president in any inappropriate setting in any way. The president was never inappropriate with anybody. In the times that I was with him, he was a gentleman in all respects.
The US Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, once Donald Trump's personal lawyer, also asked about reports of a so-called client list containing the names of Jeffrey Epstein's wealthy and influential clientele.
There's been a lot of conversations about whether Mr. Epstein maintained like a list of people, like a book of famous people that he knew, it's called a black book or a client list or a list. Did you know of the existence of any such list?
There is no list. We'll start with that.
Her only departure from the US government's summary of the case against Jeffrey Epstein, that instead of taking his own life, he was murdered whilst awaiting trial. As to Epstein's friendship with Prince Andrew, Ghislaine Maxwell dismissed the famous picture of the two of them together as a fake and denied that it was she who had initiated the royal friendship.
I would never have introduced them. It would never have occurred to me to introduce them. I couldn't imagine them being friends. Two chalk and cheeses would never, I mean, for real, there's nothing there to connect them. So he met Prince Andrew, and then he had a relationship. I don't like that word, it sounds funky. They had a
acquaintanceship.
Thank you.
Many of Donald Trump's diehard supporters have long maintained that so-called deep state elites were protecting key Democratic Party figures such as Bill Clinton from association with Jeffrey Epstein. But Maxwell said she saw no evidence of wrongdoing on the part of the former president. Ghislaine Maxwell was told her interview was not part of a cooperation deal, but shortly after being interviewed, she was moved from a Florida prison to a minimum security facility in Texas. No reason was given for the transfer. She is now appealing her conviction to the US Supreme Court. David Willis, BBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, our North America editor Sarah Smith has more analysis on what's in the 300-page transcript.
It's really, really fascinating. I mean, one can assume that one of the reasons that they have been released is that it's almost entirely good news for Donald Trump, information he'll be very happy to have out there in the public domain. Ghislaine Maxwell said that she, although she did used to see Donald Trump socially, had never seen him receiving a massage from any of the young women around Jeffrey Epstein. She had never seen Donald Trump in any kind of inappropriate situation whatsoever, she said. She was asked about that infamous so-called client list of Jeffrey Epstein's, which has been so much speculation, a lot of it from Donald Trump supporters, about whether he kept this client list and used it to blackmail powerful and influential people. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell said she was unaware of him keeping any kind of list like that. And then she also went on to say that she didn't think Jeffrey Epstein killed himself in prison. His suicide or not has been another source of a huge amount of speculation and conspiracy theories. And the other thing that's very interesting in this transcript is you can actually see the Deputy Attorney General saying to Ghislaine Maxwell that he is not promising her anything in return for this testimony. And yet we know that less than a week after she gave this interview, she was moved into a minimum security federal prison camp, somewhere considerably more pleasant to be than the prison that she had been in before that.
Sarah Smith. Well, Matthew Bartlett is a Republican strategist and Trump appointee to the State Department in the first administration. He told me whether the release of the Ghislaine Maxwell transcript is enough to stop the calls for the release of all the Epstein files.
Listen, for the sake of transparency, this seems to be a step in the right direction to have this testimony made public to the United States of America. Yet, when you look at this, let's first remember that Ghislaine Maxwell's credibility, this is someone who's not just convicted of horrific crimes, but convicted of perjury, lying under oath. So her testimony here is certainly questionable. It's the old, you show me someone's incentives and I will tell you their behavior. Her own incarceration and freedom is certainly potentially on the line as she angles for a commutation, a move, maybe even a presidential pardon. Beyond that, she is all over the place with her explanations, conveniently not recalling critical details, exonerating everyone. Again, this is a monster talking about their victims. It's very hard to believe that this brings us any more answers. Rather, it may bring us many, many more questions.
President Trump was under a lot of pressure over these files. Do you think what she has said will help him? Will he be happy at what she has said?
Arguably, let's remember, it is well established that President Trump was a friend of Jeffrey Epstein. Yet some of the most egregious allegations Donald Trump has never been involved with. They clearly had a falling out, whether it was about a land deal, whether it was about some of the victims that came from Mar-a-Lago, we may never know. But it seems as if the president continues to be reluctant to be fully transparent. Possibly that even exculpatory, even exonerating information could be equally as embarrassing to him. Beyond that, this administration, many of the critics around the Epstein files and the Epstein case are now in power. Their explanations have been far from satisfactory. The White House has created a political nightmare of their own making. It is hard to see, how the American people square this testimony with, again, some of the most legitimate questions that continue to surround this case.
Matthew Bartlett. And you can read more about what Ghislaine Maxwell told US officials and indeed background to the Epstein case online. You'll find that on the BBC News website or app.